I'm Dr. Morrow, Janice Morrow with American Mood Swings. We're producing the show. It's a docu-style show on mental health. My guest today is Sean Perry with We Are Hope. He's based in Vermont, and I heard about Sean. CNN, for those of you who watch CNN, does a Heroes of the Year. They're nominated by their peers or community members, and they're people doing really outstanding, remarkable things for the good of mankind and nonprofits, and it'll really restore your faith in humanity. So for anybody who has not ever watched this, it's a must watch, feel good end of the year thing. Let's talk about your funding and how many schools you're in now, and I was kind of curious how many people you have on staff. Is there like 2? Is there 10? And are you physically flying around the country when a school reaches out? Let's go through that. But how are you getting your funding for the schools that you are in?
Okay, let's start. We can start at the funding. We have not ever really applied for grants. That was not the way that we wanted to be funded. It's not the way that we want to run the organization. And the reason that we don't run the organization that way, and the reason that we don't want to run the organization that way, is because typically when you're given grants from anybody, for the most part, there are always strings attached. Oh. And what I mean by that is you can only serve females 9 to 14. You can only serve males, You can only serve LGBTQ. You can only serve Black males, white males, right? Whatever the case may be, there's always something. And so I didn't want to get into this piece where we're hiring a grants manager to manage who we are serving, and then us trying to manage who we can and cannot serve. That's not the purpose of who we are. The idea of who we are is to make sure that everyone has access, not who the grantor says has access. Okay. And it defeats the purpose of our organization. So what we do is we partner with the school, and the schools use either local funds, right, within their budget. They use their own grant funds that they get. So then we're not on the hook for who we can and can't serve. That's already taken care of. They just say, here's, this is what we have in our grant pool. They use the COVID relief funds as of late, and we use what are called Medicaid Title funds, so Title I and Title IV. So schools generate revenue through their Medicaid funding. So how many special ed services they have, all of these things. And when those funds are generated, that special education money that's generated doesn't go back into special education. It goes back into actually preventative care, which we fall under. So then that's how we're paid.
Title I and Title IV?
Title I, Title IV, and I just heard the other day that we could fall under Title III, I believe somebody else said. So there's all these different funding streams that schools have access to, where schools generate money based on specific services they use, is my understanding. And then when that's generated, it can be used for specific things.
Are these funds available to all public schools throughout the country? Just
yes.
Your rural area? Because it sounds like you're in rural Vermont.
Yeah, these funds are available to all public schools that I know of, right? That generate that are either a Title I school, right, which is impoverished to some degree, right, have below poverty level. Title IV. And I'm not sure what Title III is. I just learned about it the other day, but I was at a school down in Arkansas, and he said, "Oh yeah, you could use Title III too." And I was like, "Okay, great. I didn't know about Title III, but okay." So I'm constantly learning also, as we go through this journey. But like I said, we fall under prevention. We're a preventative service. The idea of our work is so there are Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3s in schools, right? And the MTSS system, multi-tiered levels of support system that schools have. And so we fall under Tier 2 support. So the idea is to make sure that these students don't struggle more than they're already struggling. So the idea is for us to reduce it. So we fall under that prevention guideline to make sure that students have access before things can become really difficult for them.
And how many schools are you in at this point, and how much staff do you have?
We're in 14 schools currently, because we had 11 and then we got 5 in the middle of the year. So yeah, we're in 14 schools currently. Vermont, New Hampshire, and Arkansas. We have 14 schools out of those 3 states. And I just today sent a proposal to a school in Connecticut, which they reached out to me again for the second time. So that's looking pretty good. So it looks like we may get another middle school in Connecticut. So that would be 15 schools. And we have 14 staff members, I believe.
And they're all paid for through the grant, or not the grants, through this title, the funding that you get. That's how these people are salaried to go in.
Yes. Yeah. So the contract comes through We Are Hope.
Okay.
We hire our coaches as independent contractors.
Yeah.
And then we pay our coaches from the funds that we receive.
Is there any element of volunteer? Is it something, I was curious if this is, are there any volunteers or opportunities? And if there were, what would they be? Or is it not really something that people can volunteer with at this point?
Yeah, so when it comes to our coaching work, there's really nothing anybody can do in regards to volunteering, because all of our coaches have to be vetted. They have to get fingerprinted so they can even be allowed in the school.
Oh,
you know,
wow,
all this, right? All this stuff, right? So I get asked all the time, like, oh, can we volunteer and maybe I can go into the school and help them? I'm like, nope, we can't do that. Sorry.
Oh, I never even, those things wouldn't have crossed my
Yeah. So for like volunteer stuff, you know, we can always use people to help out because we are doing some grant work now. But like the grants that we're receiving now are more for general funds, which are the ones that I would prefer to get, because then we can use those resources for whatever we're doing. So the only volunteers that we really need would be for our what's called the Upper Valley Youth Wellness Retreat, which is our 3-week youth wellness retreat that we host up here, 4 days a week for 3 weeks. It's the only retreat of its kind in New England that I'm aware of, to the specific level of what we do as far as youth mental health education and overall youth wellness. And so we could always use help and support there, right? We could always use an extra counselor or somebody to help support, an extra coach, somebody to help support that. But other than that, we would, you know, if someone wanted to help out with media and things like that, we're all, you know, I'm always like, yes, please, if you know how to do it, yeah, please help out, right?
Marketing.
Writing marketing and grant writers and things like that. Like, I would always welcome help for that, but no one ever is offering that help.
Anything from the CNN award event that I saw, did anybody else reach out? Were there any, I'm curious, like private donors? Like, do you get any private donors, people who've heard about your organization?
I didn't receive, I can't recall receiving any donations, but our director of development might know better than me. I definitely don't recall any large donations coming in.
Yeah.
I will say that we did end up with a contract out of it. So that's how we got Pine Bluff, Arkansas High School.
Nice.
Was because
okay.
Yeah, because they were watching. So that's how we got the school. And we've since used that video. As you probably saw, it's in my email signature. We repost it, you know, all these things. We just showed it the other night when we had the very first ever Youth Mental Health Gala up here in the state of Vermont. We were the first to ever have a gala, you know, dedicated to youth mental health. So we did that here in Vermont. And so we showed it a little bit. So we use it as a marketing tool, and we'll continue to use it probably forever.
Okay.
Right? That one, unless we get nominated again, and maybe we'll use a new one.